Today is Star Trek Day, the day when the first episode of the original series premiered, ushering in a wave of utopian progress and multiculturalism and all sorts of marvelous things. But I'm going to lay out my cards. I grew up on the original Star Trek series. I've probably seen every episode at least 6 times. Brisk is our business. I mean, I've done that a number of times here on TikTok. I do a great Shatner, especially if I am surrounded by fellow trackers. Having said that, I really don't see Star Trek having the longevity of, say, Doctor Who, because it's just simply not changing its format. It isn't. I hated Enterprise and Voyager for the most part, in large part because it was recycled stories. It wasn't the risk is our business style of storytelling that has always stood Star Trek in good stead. I've always felt that Star Trek is at its best when it deals with obsession, which runs counter to the utopian ideals promulgated by Roddenberry. I mean, think of the best Star Trek movies. Star Trek II, it's the obsessiveness of Khan. Star Trek First Contact, it's the obsessiveness of Picard. That's where Star Trek becomes dramatic and thoughtful. How can you have utopian ideals when you see evil Captain Kirk, the enemy within, raping Yeoman Rand? That is disturbing. And I think the writers inherently knew, the best writers of Star Trek knew, that that was where Star Trek excelled. Where is idealism when you deal with avarice, ego, selfishness, Vulpine lust, this sort of thing? How can you apply idealism to that? The fact that they have managed to get a great deal of mileage out of stories that deal with this recurring theme says a lot about how writing for Star Trek is like being a jazzman. If you know how to play your own notes on the trope, it will work. But that, to my mind, is more interesting. Star Trek is an examination of systemic problems, of institutions, and whether institutions are compatible with idealism and what is the source of freedom within that tension. And that is going to always remain a pertinent human question. I was intending to be critical of Star Trek, but here I am now singing its virtues. So yeah, maybe I was a little wrong in that little longueur. Star Trek will endure. Who am I fucking kidding?